Hi everyone. So here is Moonlight Soul and Marissa from Growing the Flow, and we bring into you the special eclipse edition, eclipse edition of the Stars and Cards. This is 47, episode 47, which is predominantly focused on March, but as we still recording this in February and we are in the middle of the eclipse season, all the energies are involved. So Marissa, hello officially, even though we've been chatting for 2 hours
I
already.
know. Hello again. And you forgot to mention Mercury retrograde as well has slipped into the mix. So we never know what we're going to get there. But we are very excited to see what is coming up in March because we also have Equinox coming. So finally, for some of us who are still buried under some snow here, spring is coming. So I'm excited to see what's coming in for March.
Oh yeah, because we are going to be ending the astrological year. So then we have the all three resets, the Gregorian year, the lunar year, and now astrological year is the final one. And then we fully in the new energies of the new cycles. So that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And also, we're going to get started as most months have been, hitting the ground running, right? With the 3/3 portal and our next eclipse coming in. So, we're going to check into the lunations of March, starting with that big blood moon lunar eclipse on March 3rd.
Yeah, and that one was seeded by two new moons in Virgo last year. We had the new moon in Virgo in August on the 0 degree, and then the second one in September on the 29 degree. So yeah, it's not just one new moon in Virgo; it's one, two, three, four. Here is not saying that, so that's funny.
Yeah.
And also, this is not the final eclipse in Virgo, funnily enough, because we have 1 year for one more a year from now. As you can see, the Mercury retrograde in full effect over here. So yeah, this is our one before last one, Virgo eclipse.
All right. Well, let's see, because we've got our Queen of the Moon card here. We haven't flipped it over yet, but we want to kind of tune into the theme of those lunations. So then we have the new moon in Pisces on the 18th.
I believe so. Let me just
Yeah.
double check that, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 18th for people in Europe, very likely it will be already the 19th. Of course, everybody in Australia and so on, it will be already the following day. But for us here in the on this side of Atlantic, it will be the 18th of March.
All right. So let's see what is coming in with our overarching theme. Is that
Hmm.
darkness
That's
coming
it,
in?
number 40.
Yeah. Oh,
It looks
there's my
like an
bunny.
eclipse.
I see my bunny right there. Okay, so we have the darkness energy coming in with number 40. So we definitely feel ourselves in a bit of a period of preparing to rebirth, right? We've brought the fire horse in now, and this looks very eclipsean, doesn't it? I wonder, is that the card for the lunar? Oh, long night, the long night moon. Okay, so what do we got here?
Well, I straight away feel that this eclipse in Aquarius, which was the first one, started a new path. We can see a path ahead with the rabbit. Rabbits usually hares represents fertility, right? The rebirth, and this is an eclipse that is ushering us and has ushered us into this fire horse and also into this whole new cycle of eclipses, which funnily enough, again, we'll have some anomality. We will not have a lunar eclipse in Leo. We will only have a solar eclipse in Leo. So it will be all about the, how you say, like a seeding and conception. And then next time the nodes will be in Aquarius and a Leo, which will be the reverse. We will have only lunar eclipse in Aquarius. So I've checked, and actually the next time we have both lunar and solar eclipse in both signs won't be until I believe the 50s, 2050s. So we started a new road, new path towards some very pattern changing behavior, not just from astrology, but from everything inside and outside of us. And I don't know whether I mentioned that last time. Next year, 2027 and 2028, we'll have five eclipses instead of usual four. And in 2029, we'll have six eclipses in that year. So that's what I feel with the darkness. We don't have a clue where we're going, and it all seems a little bit like, "Ah." But yeah, I really feel that this, because also 40, like the new structure, the new reality we creating, well, it's kind of unknown.
But we're laying the groundwork now. Yeah, the four legs, right? Like the structure, the framework. So I do think, yeah, like even though we can't see it yet, it's happening, and this is that time of year that we do use all the garden analogies and that bulb is stirring under the soil, even though we can't see it. You plant that seed that has the blueprint. One of the things I always say with this card that those bunny ears remind me of antenna. Bunny ear antenna is what we used to call, dating myself, antennas on the television, the antennas that you
Yeah,
would
yeah.
adjust to find your frequency, to get tuned into a channel. There's static, And so there's a lot of that recalibrating happening, but we're on the path, like on the path, and there is some illumination, but there's darkness which is serving. I think that's part of it too, is that it's all a part of the cycles. And so we use that to incubate, to gestate, to tend to what needs tending to in order to turn over that fertile soil. And again, we've been saying how, all those little catchphrases sound so nice, but what does that mean? Like it could be like ripping the weeds out, pulling it out from its roots. So that can be an experience of all varying, preference, non-preferred, ways that we're experiencing those things. And the thing about eclipses is how they are like they catapult us onto more aligned paths to new timelines. And so this pathway particularly is being illuminated here, but it may be a complete new beginning, because that's another thing with the rabbits for me is like the renewal, the rebirth, and new beginnings as well.
And I feel because I believe the eclipse is happening on a 13 degrees. Let me just double check that. 12:53. Um, I feel that it's kind of like a rebirth energy because Virgo, of course, and this is a second decan of Virgo, which is the Capricorn, and we know that Saturn and Neptune now are in this new cycle of they just had a conjunction. So this cycle started a new process that we will see growing over the time. And the next time they're going to conjunct in Gemini, I believe. So with the conjunction in Aries on the analytic 0 degrees that we just experienced with Saturn and Neptune, and this is starting a cycle that will, I believe, reset after 35 years again. And then at the same time, we have all these numbers 12, 13, 28 for the new moon in Pisces. And that will be the final new moon on the 28 degree, which we've been experiencing since the Libra. And this is the 10, which is the year we in, the 10, the 0 and the 1, the year of the reset, the year of the creation of something new. So I feel this card, and obviously Saturn, we are creating a new manifestation, a new reality, a new structure. Like you said, the four legs of the table are being put into place, but we don't know what the table will look like. We're just creating the foundation pretty much. So I feel this energy very right. And of course, we're going to have the Easter weekend at the end of March. So with the bunny, makes sense. And like you said, the equinox, the spring season here in the Northern Hemisphere where bunnies are born and everything is starting to come back to life. So yeah, I think we are in a very fertile, energetically fertile ground for these new creations. To be seeded and eventually manifesting. And yeah, we just don't know what it is because with the Aquarius, it's about breaking the pattern. And like you said, you are tuning into the frequency that is right for you, which is
Mhm.
unique to each individual.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely feel like this is embodying those energies and also just the different shadows that do get casted when there's this darkness, but they're just the shadows that we need to see and acknowledge and address so that it is creating that clearer pathway forward. So I think in many ways we need the darkness just as much as the light. And if we know that the lightness is increasing on the planet, so is the darkness. So that can also serve to be a collective message about what we might see reflected throughout March, but it's all serving. So I think, that kind of sets us on that path. And then we'll take a look and see what's coming in from the tarot for our beginning, middle, and end of the month. And we've already tuned in to the psychic tarot for the heart. So let's see, I have all three here. Okay, beginning.
Oh,
There's,
wow.
there's more of that darkness being illuminated there with the feeling alone. So that's Five of Pentacles energy with that moon peeking up over the mountain in the distance. Interesting. Ooh, I see more red. Okay. Middle of the month, that four is coming in. Open
Oh,
up with the
wow.
Four of Pentacles. So we got the five and the four of that earth energy. And then, beautiful,
Oh,
we got
nice.
the lovers, the balance, the harmony, the healing in relationship and in the choice of the path. So look at that. You look how it lights up by the end. I like that, how we're coming through. Wow. Okay. So we start there with that Five of Pentacles. I like how she's holding the lantern because we've now fully emerged from the hermit year. We're all done with all of our, cliche. We've got the snake and we're going in and we're shedding and releasing, but we're holding that light and looking out and feeling perhaps alone or detached or in some way unsure where we fit or what's going on. That this process that we're moving through is beginning to create that foundation and that structure and that framework to get a better sense of what is authentic to me, what feels, what choices am I going to make, and in which way am I going to make different conscious. And this is physical. We've got two earth energies coming in here with the pentacles to take those tangible steps, slow but steady.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and I feel because she's holding the lantern, which is like you mentioned, like Hermit year, we just came out of 2025, and he holds the lamp, and there is that full moon, which is an illumination. And again, like I already mentioned, we had two new moons in Virgo. We are starting this month, as you brought up the free portal, which is actually free, the creation, the manifestation, free adds up to number 6, and it's actually a day that adds up to number 7, which we know is a very spiritual number about higher learning and stuff. And we have I mean, there is no 7 there, but what I'm trying to say is this: with the Virgo, it is about learning, and with this Five of Pentacles, usually it's like being left out on the cold, and we know that usually when we are in a challenging situations, we learn about ourselves and we learn about what actually really matters, and that's what I feel with the middle card, because it's her base sacral up to like solar plexus, like illuminated in that one like orb of light. That's what I feel, that all of these situations and circumstances that are happening for us individually and collectively, and everybody's going through it in some way. And also, she's holding a fire horse, like, okay, everything you learned last year, let's just bring it online now. And the illumination of that which was seeded last year in the, Virgo season or whatever. And then it's all about the, okay, well, what actually really matters? What am I protecting here? Are there my values, somebody else's values? What adjustments do I need to make in order, for the things that matter to me, to be protected and stuff. And I don't know, because it's interesting with the middle card, how the purple, which usually we associate with the top chakras, is actually at the bottom.
Yeah.
So this is where I feel where like we were saying all along for so long now, that the higher self wants to come online to be more present in our human experience, mixing the spirit and the tangible, the physical world, the human ego mind with the higher mind, to create a new foundation, to create something different, to create a different experience. But first, we have to go through the muck for all the dense emotions to come out and to truly help us understand who we are, what we made of, where we from. And in a sense, I always like say this, and I said it to many clients, and I even said it to my husband. We need to learn to claim our space, claim the space I came here to occupy in this world with my energy, like not to play small, not to like go crazy, but claim my space, claim what I came here to experience. So I feel somehow with the Five of Pentacles, and there is that big lake in front of her, and then there is that moon illuminating everything. I think this is a lot of, because we still are in an eclipse portal, and obviously me being in Puerto Vallarta and everything that's been playing out here in the past week, there are a lot of like things that are coming online through the emotions, and they're not connected necessarily to just present moment, but they bring in eventually they will bring clarity with regards to like, well, what does actually this mean to me, in my experience, in my life, and where do I want to go from here. So I know that in particular with the situation here and a lot of fear, coming online, and this is something that I was sharing with a client yesterday. It's serving because it's like, okay, do I want the fear, whether it's because of situation, person, circumstances, to control my life? Or do I want to acknowledge, okay, yes, there is fear. There are things I can't control, which are part of human experience. It will be very likely present for, rest of my life to some way. But I don't have to allow that to control the decision making of my life, to be the structure of my reality that, oh, I am going to see what happens and then I'm going to make a decision based on how it makes me feel, like, so I feel like all of these situations, and then obviously with the last card choice that, ties up to it really, it is making us to face things and make choices. Do I want these things to make a decisions for me and control my life, my decision making, and where I'm going with my life? Or do I just want to acknowledge, yeah, they're there, but I am still going to do what I feel is the right thing for me?
Absolutely. Wow, there's so much in there. I was like getting so much from everything you were saying. And I think one thing that we didn't really touch, but we know is here is the cabin, right? The
Oh, yeah.
cabin between her, the body of water, and the moon. And so what that's highlighting about a Five of Pentacles is a feeling of fear of missing out, the FOMO, right? I'm not inside. The light's on, it looks warm in there, and they are over there and I'm over here. And so there's this feeling of FOMO. And, oftentimes we'll talk about the fear of missing out versus the joy of missing out, JOMO, that it's like sometimes it's almost about the principle of it or the ego that says, well, I just want to be invited. I don't necessarily want to go to the party, but I want to be invited. And it's like that to me, these two are very connected because the Four of Pentacles is really asking us, what do you value? What do you value? What do you wish to invest in? And so from that perspective, it's like we're no longer chasing after something that's not aligned just because it feels like that's what you're supposed to do or
Mm-mm-mm.
because that's the way that we feel validated or included in some way, but actually then you get a glimpse of what's going on in there and you're like, "Ooh, no." It's not like there's joy also in doors closing in our face or not opening for us because a much more aligned path that I wish to invest in and to begin to put my energy into to grow is becoming available to me. And I thought that was so interesting what you were saying about needing to take up space because it is reminding me of, and I wish I had a green thumb, but I don't. But I do understand that when you're planting things, you have to be strategic about how much space you leave between them in order for them each to flourish and grow so that they don't choke each other out or that the roots don't,
Mm.
they get entangled or there's not enough room for it to fully grow. That it's again about sort of taking this time to clear your space and prepare where you are planting, where you are going to bloom from, wherever that is. And in some cases, it could be very different than what you thought it might be, or where, or when, and all the things that we have a lot of stories that we're having an opportunity to choose new, more aligned paths, stories, ideas about what matters and what's real and what's true. And I think that was the other thing is, what you were saying is you are in Puerto Vallarta, which is exactly where, things that were going on in the news. And we had a real life example of what I was seeing as what was happening there versus your lived experience and
Mm.
the fear, the worry, and the concern that came over me. And rightfully so. I mean, it's not to undercut at all what happened and the loss of especially businesses and all the things and to the extent that anyone would have been hurt or anything, but it's giving us different perspectives about the way that things are, boots on the ground versus what we see in the media or, the way, and it's reminding me of those antenna, because what you tune into is going to set forward your experience. It's going to, attract in And so this is where there's a call for much more discernment about what I'm trying to get into and where I want to invest all the things, which then culminates into that sovereign choice then that we look at as we get to the end of the month.
Yeah, that's very true. And like it's so interesting, with the planting analogy. I never thought about it, and it's so true. Yeah, because we know that even in our own experience, if we feel too limited or stifled or restricted by our environment or certain relational dynamics or something, we feel like we cannot grow anymore, we cannot thrive. And that usually then, ends up like being a conflict situation, or sometimes even the relational dynamics have to dissolve or change or something. So it's very true, and thank you for bringing it up because I never thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice with the last one. But yeah, it's like, as we were saying in our private conversation, everything is by the design, so yeah, in one way you can say I'm never safe in this world. No matter where I go, anything can happen. But yeah, but there is the flip side of it, which is that, yeah, so make decisions based on what you enjoy. Don't worry about what might or might not happen, because it might or might not happen anywhere you are, and it might or might not happen whatever you do or don't do. So I feel that we are forced to face the fear and do it anyway. So face your fear and, yeah, acknowledge, yeah, there are a million different options and possibilities and timelines available with regards to this. But I'm not gonna live my life thinking about the fear right now. I'm gonna think about, well, what would bring me the most joy in this moment? Like, what can I focus on right here, right now? So yeah, I really feel that the second card, the middle card, which of course is post-eclipse season, it will be right before the new moon in Pisces, which will then, be illuminated by the eclipse in summer in August. We'll have the final full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. In summer, we will not yet have a lunar eclipse in Aquarius. We'll only have one, which will be in 2027. But yeah, the meaning, Pisces, the meaning, Pisces, 28 degrees, the reason, the number one, what holds a meaning for you,
Mhm.
like now that you excavated the lived experience, just like the soul, but your soul, when you transit out of this physical into the non-physical, it doesn't go with like, okay, let me remember all the bad things about all the people I met, and all the horrible things that they, no, it's just gonna excavate like the experience of the lived life, like the overall energy of it. So that's what I feel that is happening for, like, I mean, I don't know if all of us, but I would think so, consciously or unconsciously, everyone, in a lived form, in a lived way, that, yeah, based on everything that's going on, again, individually, collectively, how you feeling about everything that's going on in your life, what's going on out there, and it's all mixed up together in your system, in your experience. We have the opportunity to excavate the wisdom of everything that we know or we think we know and make a new choice, which I feel leads to the final card, because we're talking about the Aries season. As we mentioned at the beginning, we will be entering into that new astrological year with the not Aries new moon, because actually we're going to have full moon in Libra first on April 1st, and then the full moon, new moon in Aries will not be until mid-April. So go figure. But we still have Sun entering the sign of Aries, actually on the same day as Mercury stationing direct on the 20th. And I guess with this Mercury currently retrograde in Pisces, we are processing a lot of things connecting to the past. And then by the time Mercury goes direct, and we'll have this end of the month and whatever will play out between now and end of March, perhaps we will be able to decide what holds a meaning, and not knowing the tangible outcome of our decision, but, be able to redirect our focus, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing is a story here with all those steps where we're stepping out into the dark. We're holding this lantern, and it is about illuminating the path ahead in order to, okay, what am I working with? Let me excavate, which again is a nice, is a an umbrella term that's like, what is that like to have to dig down in there and go in the muck, right? What is that experience? Because traditionally, this person could be unwell. They could be on the outs financially or in some way injured or having an illness or dis-ease or something that feels like they're hitting rock bottom. But it's actually in the rock bottom that those aha moments and sudden awarenesses come in, because how do you figure out matters to you and what you value without experiencing its opposite, to recognize what is important to you. And the other thing that's like screaming at me is I did our March reading yesterday for an empowerment pack, and I want to show you the color for the month.
Oh, nice.
Oh, as you mentioned, it stood out to you that the bottom is actually the indigo, which here is saying improve your vision. Oh, by the way, do you see what number it is? Yeah. Well, from a color perspective, so therefore it doesn't matter what tools we're talking about. This is the midnight indigo, light in the dark. So we're here, right? As we're moving into March, we're finding those dark nights of the soul. We're in the dark. But who's holding the lantern? Who's got the map? Which aspect of me is going to lead the charge? My higher self. I want my wise self to be the one that's digging in the muck and sorting through all of that. So enter in the higher self, right? So look at that as a bridge between where we are and where we're going with the indigo and the gold. And we know that this is all about bringing heaven to earth. The lovers is all about embodying that. So ultimately, that's what all this muck digging is for, and it's all serving the darkness, the feeling alone, the, sifting through, the excavating, so that we can bloom fully. And I love that with the masculine and the feminine and the way in which they're both blooming, into one there. So that's a lovely way to look at it too, where the color is speaking, the numbers are speaking. I mean, so the indigo was pinging there, and how you mentioned right away that it was at the base, it's at the ground level. So it's the higher self diving in with us. We're not alone, right? Who's carrying that lantern? Who's got the map? Who is excavating and determining where we're going? So I think that's something that we each get to decide regardless of what's going on in the cabin. It's like, as for me, I'm going to excavate because I'm looking to anchor in my little patch of bringing heaven to earth so that that can ripple out into the collective.
Yeah, and it's in the middle card, with the pink, the higher heart, the unconditional love of the universe, which is not the human love. It's
Mm.
something completely alien to us. And then in the final card, the six, which we know the master number frequency, 33 also adds up to number six. And is the heart. The heart is that, like allowing the heart, the heart of the universe, the heart of the higher self, which is fair and impartial and non-judgmental, like as we know, your higher self and the God source, whatever universe, is not gonna judge you. It doesn't matter how many times you screw up, it's still gonna love you unconditionally. It doesn't matter who you are and what you do, which from our human perspective is like, how can it love that horrible person or something? But it's all consciousness. It is all part of itself, right? Like having an experience, expanding, evolving. So that's why, like with the final card, like in any moment we have a choice, right? We have a choice. We can choose to embody more light. We can choose to embody more dark. Sometimes we need to make the same choices multiple times to learn the same lesson, whatever it is. And the higher self doesn't judge, because it doesn't matter how much or how little you think you do in this life. The final thing is not done anyway, like the next generation, the next version of yourself and stuff will keep going. So, and it's interesting again, like you were saying, the space, between the plants, and these two people, there is a space, they hold in hands, but there is a space for them to breathe, to grow, to expand. And then there is that love, and then the infinity symbol, just like it is, in these multiple cards. We have the strength card, magician, two of pentacles, and I don't know if there is another one that holds the infinity symbol. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
about the choice to create something different from a different level of consciousness, because we know, like Einstein said, right? Like you cannot make a different, like create something different from the same level of consciousness, from the same place where what we are experiencing has been created.
Mhm.
So that's why, like you said, perfectly with the higher self, and the being the bridge, and the indigo, the higher self being actually at the base, not the ego self, even though we believe so, and then the top, the cosmic heart, the oneness, the consciousness of oneness and unconditional love, which, like I said, is not what we as a human believe it to be, because it is not a human love, it's something completely different. So that's what I feel we are growing into understanding.
Yeah, definitely seeding from that foundation. And we can see that in these cards. They have a similar, like it's from the ground up. We're building, we're excavating, and then we're laying that the framework and the scaffolding, to begin to build what's coming in new. And beautifully, that's when the wheel turns and we move into Aries season and the equinox. And so truly, welcome to 2026 at that point. So let's
Exactly.
see. We have one more deck. We haven't used the mystical shaman oracle in quite a while, so I'm going to take your suggestion there and see what comes forward.
We have a helicopters.
Oh,
They've
do
been
you?
flying there, yeah, like marine police, like in
Oh, because
helicopters.
of
They've been
security and
patrolling
monitoring.
since Sunday, so I could just hear them outside.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting times, that's for sure.
It is, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it's all happening, so I want to be aware of I'm excavating fully so that I can. It's funny now there's a plane flying over here.
There you go. No matter where you are, we are all
Doesn't
connected.
matter where you are. All right, let's
Perfect.
see what wants to come in. Mystical shaman. Message for the collective for March. Oh, flow. That's
Oh,
what we
perfect.
get.
Number 20.
Number 20. So we're bringing together that energy and we've got this flow and there's another full moon back there. So I definitely think too, there's a lot of things ending, a lot of cycles that are finishing up and wrapping up, and it does feel like, what they say, like right when, like say Mercury stationing retrograde or right before it stations direct, you get like that, or any of these cycles. So it's kind of how I feel is like it's coming in very a lot big, this full illumination of these moons that we see because it's quickening because it's finishing up. So there's a lot of those cycles ending, things coming to light, being illuminated, and the guidance is to flow. So let's see. Um,
Well, to me, it's interesting just before you read the description, because, like, from my vantage point, and I'm not saying that's what's on a card, I'm just saying what I can see from here. It looks like there is that blob at the bottom of the card, which looks to me like a fire. And what the person holds, from my vantage point, and I'm not saying this was on a card, this is what I see, is like a piece of ice. So I'm like, the
hmm.
fire of the horse, it's thawing, all that ice, all the trauma, all the things that's been like put away. Okay, I can't deal with this. I don't have the energy, I don't have the whatever, intelligence or the knowing or the wisdom or something or the potential, or I don't know, whatever it is, the limited stuff that we put on ourselves. And he's facing it like, okay, this fire slowly is gonna melt this ice, and that water is gonna become flowy, it's gonna become liquidy. So once we look into these things that are frozen in time and space, aka karma, right, the energy, emotion, things stuck in place and time which are unresolved, because like I say, to everyone, everything you are experiencing on an emotional level, it is not yours. All these feelings, whatever they are, guilt, shame, being feeling inadequate, lack, like the anger, whatever. These emotions are very old, very very old. None of them came with me or you. So that's what I feel. There are a lot of things that are attached to these old emotions, then denser emotions, right, that want to expand as well, right, that are frozen. They frozen because there are a lot of things, even with files and stuff, there are a lot of things that were hidden, frozen in time and space, nobody looking at them, but they solidify. So took on the form, can't escape, can't be hidden anymore. And now this eyes is melting all of these things, so it becomes a water, and we have to deal with the emotion once this thing gets unfrozen, but then eventually it will flow, it will return to this natural flow of life and gets integrated and becomes part of everything else, and then a new expression, which, again, this person is dressed in dark, just like the first card, darkness, the void, the 0 point, the infinity, from which something new can be created. Like with the number two, I know the number two is partnership, but to me, number two is always the two of swords. Which way do you choose?
Crossroads, choice point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Intersection of two things come together. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's just what I came to me right away when I looked at the card. I'm sure that Colette Baron Reid and Alberto Viodo have different interpretation, but I just quickly
Yeah.
wanted to put it out there before I start feeling inferior and think like, oh yeah, well, that's not what I thought.
I'm so glad you did because I think that was so profound. I'm sure it's not an ice block, but that's exactly when you read intuitively, you go with what you see and what it brings to mind for you. And that's an amazing analogy because when you think about something being frozen, it's like the different stages or states of water, frozen, gas, liquid. The flow is in there. It's just not in that state at the time. So it's stagnated, it's frozen. And then as things thaw out, and we're literally seeing this in the world as large blocks of ice are thawing, things are being excavated that are changing the whole story of the human origins. I'm seeing things all the time about new discoveries, about aging, different fossils and things that then come up to the surface through the melting that creates flow, but it's also creating new pathways forward with old information coming newly flowing forward. So I think there's so many layers of symbolism there. And then when you do allow yourself to get in there and thaw it out and flow with it, yes, you're going to discover things that you didn't realize were buried in there or that maybe you haven't wanted to look at or whatever it is. That is bringing us to that choice point, that crossroads of am I going to deal with this? Am I going to see this through? Or am I going to try to shove it back in the freezer and let it refreeze? And we're sort of coming to a place where that's no longer an option.
Much fire around, nothing is gonna get frozen.
Yeah, no, it's thawing out because it's all coming up. And I think, that's its own like fascinating series of things. And then of course, yes, they have other ideas in the Oracle about the symbolism, but it's all connected. Because it looks like it's talking about the natural movement of events in the world. So this is what we were talking about, and it's saying that you can see it in the phenomena such as tide, the ebb and flow of oceans and rivers that rise up from the earth and then flow to the sea. And that the symbol of flow represents the effortless and natural movement towards a certain destination. And it signifies an ability to gracefully move around obstacles and reminds you of the sense of allowing. So it's this story here. She's going to figure out how she's going to get across that river. And this is about the surrender, the flow, the understanding, allowing things, making choice, which is exactly what this is also embodying that, the energy of a choice point. And then flowing because it creates new pathways. And that is through the obstacles that come up in the way, that create new waterways and carve out mountains, so that's sort of what we're the gravity of what we're talking about is these little things that are happening for everyone and big things and everything in between is literally carving out the new era that we're stepping into. So the guidance is to flow. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of different references in here, but it is about, you know, not just taking the path of least resistance or, enjoying the ride, being called to be like the river, knowing the fulfillment of destiny is assured. I mean, it's definitely spot on to what, we've been tuning into and, what I think these cards are showing for us and how that aligns with the stars that we expect in March and beyond.
Yeah, the eclipse portal.
Yes.
And the free, the creation of balance and peace and learning through the contrast, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and there is plenty of contrast. So that means lots of opportunity to learn. Grow,
Exactly.
heal, expand.
Exactly, perfect. But I'm being conscious of time because I know you have
Yes.
a commitment. So let's just tell people everything there is to share at this time coming into March. What do you have to share, Marissa?
Oh, it's going to be so fun this month. I gave a little sneaky peek of the color, but we are playing with music this month, the beat, March to the beat. So my empowerment pack's kicking off, where we work together comprehensively throughout the month. Also, I'll be sharing my spring equinox or autumn, depending on where you are in the world. I have a special spread that I do as a seasonal reading that's available now. And then my year ahead reading is nice to do at this point of the year as we kick off the astrological year, that we could look at the full circle of, all the way around the zodiac wheel as well. So those are some of my favorites to do in the spring. And then, of course, I'll have the link for the free empowerment sharecast where I'll do the weekly card pulls. And that's where I'm going to be doing some things with my music oracles and stuff too, to play with that beat, finding our beat and our rhythm theme for the month of March. So,
Yeah, and we know that the sound and the frequency and the dance and the singing is definitely part of the timelines we are creating collectively, and obviously individually we'll be contributing. So yeah, and from my end, I still have my Eclipse sale available for booking. So if anybody would like support and guidance at this time, all my services are on offer at the moment. You can find more details on my website, moonlight369.com, and I might extend it until the end of the week because we still have Jupiter retrograde until March 10th, and of course now Mercury retrograde as well. So yeah, check that out if you are interested, and yeah, it will be nice to reconnect again in the new astrological year and see what will be coming up for us for my final month in the Vallarta for April and the end of my solar return year,
that's right. I can't even believe it's time for that too. I feel like it's
which
almost
is
time for your
going so quick.
birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Awesome.
thank you everyone for tuning in with us. Thank you, Marissa. I know it's always crazy over there where you are with all the happenings, and I think spring break is just about to break.
Yes.
So there is a lot happening. So
Yes.
thank you, and yeah, until next time, everyone, have a fun March with the tunes, and we'll see you at the end of it. Bye, everyone.